Super Mario Maker 2 is home to a lot of creative and fun levels. However, a lot of Mario Maker's levels don't look that great, or maybe they can be improved. So today, I want to give some tips on how to make your levels look nicer. Now these won't be super complex tips, as they don't really need to be, as once you learn the basics, then it's fairly easy to expand upon it. One thing before we start is that how good and bad a level looks is all subjective, so don't take what I say as fact. I think what I say here will overall make more people like your levels. Also, not all levels need to be complicated looking. Just a few certain ones, like for example, traditional ones don't really need to be so complicated looking, however maybe room-based levels can. But with that being said, let's jump right into some of my tips and tricks to make your levels look nicer in Super Mario Maker 2. First off is a trick with the pure aesthetic features. What do I mean by this? Well, I mean the little ground decorations that will randomly pop up on a piece of ground when you place it. These will change with the theme being flowers and plants in the overworld and being statues and stuff in the castle. While this is random, you can actually place these anywhere you like by just using the copying tool and moving it anywhere. Additionally, you can get rid of them by erasing the ground block and placing a new one in its place. Personally, I don't like it when these ground decorations are just left randomly in the levels, as in my opinion they look pretty ugly when they're just random. I believe everything should have a purpose in a level, so there are of course good ways to use these. Like maybe you can make a small garden on a platform with flowers, or maybe you can make a fence in the castle. I believe if these are intentionally placed, they look way better than just being random. Now that was a bit of a more well-known one, however a lot less commonly known is that in some certain themes, each ground block has a different design. Like for example in the jungle, you can get many things like bones and shells. Like ground blocks with decorations on top, you can actually copy these and move them anywhere. Combining this in the last technique, I made a small island in my Jumping Piranha jungle with ground decorations and ground blocks all having Dry Bones heads, because Dry Bones is the best character for Smash Bros. I mean, unless you're a clown, but like, who would be like that? Unfortunately, this doesn't work in a 3D world, but this could definitely be helpful for some levels. I don't really think it affects my view on a level if these are random, since they're pretty unnoticeable than the top ground decorations, but this could be helpful for some extra and more subtle design. Now this one, to those of you that don't know it, is probably the biggest and most important decoration tip that I can give. That is, use semi-solids. You can easily use them for backgrounds in your levels, which look really nice. I use semi-solids in pretty much all of my levels, as they are so incredibly helpful for making levels look nicer, especially if the level has rooms. Most of them work pretty well as backgrounds, with a few exceptions. This tip will help your levels the most out of all of the tips in this video, so if you aren't using semi-solids for backgrounds, especially in room levels, you should probably start. The only downside is that arrows can't be placed over them, which is pretty dumb and annoying. Other than that though, these work incredibly for backgrounds. When using these though, you have to be careful that the player can't get soft locked by going on top of them. The best way to fix this is just to have the top covered or inside unbreakable blocks. The next one is a super simple one, but if you use ground in your level, which pretty much everybody does, make sure it isn't one block thick, as it kinda looks ugly in some themes. Just have it go all the way down to the bottom if possible. Maybe you should replace them with bridges or semi-solids to make the level look nicer as well. Sometimes one block thick ground works, but most of the time it doesn't, especially if it's in a situation like the one shown here. So I would say try to fill it into the bottom if you can. Next up is vines. Now I don't generally use vines in my levels, but they can be very helpful for making things look older, or have extra plants, or just look extra nice by adding in some more detail. I think they work best in the forest theme for plants and underground to make things look older, however they can really work in any theme. You can place them in the floor and ceiling, and I personally think they work best if they're 1 or 2 blocks of vines sticking out. If it's on the ceilings it can stick out a little further, but if it's on the ground I would stick with 1 or 2. Also make sure that the bottom of the vine is in the ground, as if it's sticking out it would look kinda ugly. Now if you do want to use these vines, there's a pretty important thing to keep in mind, and that is that these might be used for cheese. Since the player can climb on them, it can allow the player to skip over a section of the level if they aren't placed in a good spot. Take this for example. Normally the player is supposed to do a shell jump here. However, I could just jump on this vine and skip this challenge entirely. I would suggest just moving the vine away from here. Seriously, nearly every single level that I've played with vines as decoration, I've been able to cheese them, so make sure that your levels aren't cheesable if you choose to use vines. Here's an idea on how to make your bridges look a slight bit better. Instead of having them in midair without any support, you can have them attached to mushroom stems or tracks. You can have these either go off screen or onto a ceiling to make it look like it's being held up. Additionally, if you want to use tracks, then maybe you could connect them diagonally. Personally, I like how they look going upwards much better, but both options are definitely good. Personally, I like mushroom stems a bit better than tracks. You can also use the mushroom stems to do the same thing, but just for normal ground blocks. Next up is to use slopes for decoration. First off, you are actually able to combine the two slope types to make a nice curved slope. Slopes look way better in my opinion than just going up by one block. It doesn't mean you have to do this or even should use F-slope for every time you want to change elevation in your level, but I think that it does look nicer. Additionally, slopes used on ceilings can make things look a lot nicer and maybe even more natural. I use slopes on my ceilings in all of my levels for decoration, as it makes my rooms look a lot better in my opinion. You may have also noticed that I've been using them a lot in this video already as well. Here's another super important one. Make sure the backs of your pipes aren't uncovered. Basically, just place blocks on the back end. These makes pipes look infinitely better. Me and many other people, whenever we see an uncovered pipe, we automatically not like the level. Maybe we don't boo the level, but more likely we won't love it. It only takes 2 blocks to fix this problem. Also, if you want to have a pipe turn 90 degrees, then I would suggest having 4 iron blocks like this, and then another pipe on top, which I personally looks a lot better than just having the 2 pipes like this. Next up are the skull platforms, which can be used fairly well inside of ground or ceilings to add a bit more atmosphere. There really isn't too much to say on this one. I think the best place to use these are in boss fight rooms and maybe an item room. I think these look best in the older themes rather than Mario U though. I also think the white ones look a lot more useful and better than the blue ones for decorations. Make sure the player can't ride on the skull platform though, as that would ruin the design and possibly even lead to cheese. Our next one is probably the most specific one in this video. In the airship theme, the stems of mushrooms look really good and are very hopeful for design. They can be used for poles for flags, for example, and there are many other uses for them. Unfortunately, they're only in the airship theme, but if you do decide to make a level in the airship theme, then make sure to keep this in mind so maybe you can add some more detail. And for our final tip, we have ice blocks, which work very well as windows for buildings. I wouldn't say they work best in Mario 1 and 3, but they are still definitely effective in the other 3 themes as well. Before we end here, I want to give a demonstration on how to use all of these techniques to improve a simple platform like this and make it look a lot better. First off, fill the ground in all the way to the bottom. Next up, remove the random ground decorations placed around the place. Then place a roof over the top of the platform. Make sure this won't get in the way of platforming though. This will fix the uncovered pipe. Then, maybe you could add in some vines for some atmosphere. After that, add in a semi-solid background to help this chunk stand out. Then you could add in some mushroom stems to make it look like it's supporting the roof. Finally, while this wasn't really a tip for aesthetics, I'd add in some coins to make it feel more satisfying to go through. I think coins also make things look a little bit better as well. And just like that, without really changing gameplay at all, aside from small vines, the platform looks so much better than the original. You don't have to do all of these things if you want your platform to be changed. I would say mainly just do the first 3 things and then you're all set. And if you want to go above and beyond, then do my further steps. I'm sure that even this design can be further improved, so I would definitely try experimenting for yourself. While these may seem obvious to a lot of you, I have seen quite a few levels with actually the original design. Using these techniques throughout your whole level would make your levels look dramatically better. But anyways, that's it for this video. I would suggest going back through some of your old levels or keep this in mind for your next level just to try them out. Obviously, not all of these work for every level, but I guarantee that at least one of them can apply to each of your levels. Judge for yourself to see if these actually help your levels look any better, and if it does, let me know in the comments. Send me some of your level ideas if you used any of these, because I'd be glad to check them out. While there may be a ton of ideas here, there are still a ton more that I didn't even mention, like how you could use rainbow semi-solids with pipes like I did in my level Pipes in the Sky, so I highly suggest experimenting for yourselves. If this video does well, I might even make a part 2, because I definitely have enough ideas to do so. Again, this video is fairly simple, however, it doesn't need to be complicated, as if the scenery gets too complicated, it can get in the way of gameplay as it may be too distracting. But either way, if you enjoyed this video, then leave a like or maybe even subscribe, as it would help me out a huge bunch. My Twitter, Discord, and Maker ID are all in the description. But anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.